Okay, so we're just going to go through a quick tutorial on how to export a mix for those of you who don't know how to do it already. This is one of the projects you might have been working on recently, but it could be any project. What we call it in the business is bouncing. So we're going to bounce this down into a stereo file, okay, which obviously could be for a CD, or for transmitting over the internet or whatever. Okay, so the first thing you need to make sure is that your project length down here is right, because if this is too long, i.e. if this wasn't at 24 and it was on say 48, we've got a lot of space here at the end, which will appear as just kind of empty silence on the end of your track, which you don't want. So obviously we've got to make sure that our project length is right. Now here we can see that our project finishes around 21 bars or just over, but there are some notes that are still sounding. And so just to counteract for that, we're going to put in a few bars over the top, which only amounts to a few seconds, but we want to make sure, and you'll probably want to listen back to your track to see where that where the last sounds fade out, to ensure you don't cut off the last of the sounds on there. So you've got to make sure this is right. I've set mine to 24 and I've checked that doesn't cut off any of the sounds, and that's what you'll need to do as well. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is make sure nothing is selected as well. So I'm going to click in the background, make sure everything's deselected, and I'm going to make sure that my cycle region is off, because if that's on, that will default to playing bouncing down what's in the cycle region, which will cut off at bar 17. Okay, so I want to just click into that, make sure it's deselected, and that way we know when it exports, it will export to the project length and not to the cycle region. Okay, so if we want to get into the bounce dialog, we're going to click Command B. And this brings us up our bounce dialog box. Okay, and there's a few things in here. Obviously, here is your title of your piece, which you can name anything. And obviously, you should be well versed in finding the right place to put your project in your directory by now. Okay, ensuring that you put it on the CMS drive wherever possible, so you can access it from a number of locations. Okay, so for this exercise, I don't want to record it in PCM, which stands for pulse code modulation, which is the format used for CDs. What I want to save it as is MP3, so I'm going to deselect PCM and select MP3. And under MP3, we've got all of the different format choices that we can have. Okay, this is what we call the data rate. Some of you may or may not be aware of what that means, but it just results in quality, really. I've got it set to 320 kilobits per second, which is the highest quality. You don't really want to be going down anything below sort of 64 kilobits per second if you want to maintain a good level of quality. But obviously, the lower the kilobits rate, the quicker it will be downloaded over the internet or streamed over the internet. Okay, so that's that. Just to let you know, iTunes. If you want to add this to iTunes, you click Add to iTunes Library, and it will just add it immediately. Obviously, don't do it on these computers because we don't want it in the iTunes library, okay? Otherwise it clogs up the system. But if you've got this at home, that's another way of doing it. An iTunes format would be M4A, so you can click that as well and have two sets of things going out. And as you can see, you can select the bit rate here, kilobits per second, and it's variable for iTunes, and you can select the codec here. And normally we just set it to AAC, which stands for Advanced Audio Codec. But for this exercise, I'm just going to be exporting an MP3. It just so happens that I want it to be at the highest quality. And don't worry about all these other things for now. Using best encoding and filter frequencies below 10 Hz. Well, that's you might as well do that, because if you've mixed properly, you won't have anything below 10 Hz. Okay, so ID free tags allows us to add in any kind of information about the author. Okay, so that if we're putting stuff over the internet, we can say who the artist is and whatnot. Okay, but I'm not going to go into all of these things with any depth. Normalize, you can just leave off. If you mastered something properly, you should be able to just leave that as off. And if you haven't mastered something properly, you may want to select overload protection only. Okay. Or on if you just want it to be on in the whole mix. Okay, but generally, if you've mastered something properly, you don't really need that on. Okay. Also, Just in case you've set your start and end points for your project wrong, you can check them here, and you can see it says 24 bars there, 24111, which is the downbeat of the 24th bar. That's where I set my project to. But just in case there's any problems, like you'd left the cycle region on or whatnot, you can change it in here. You don't have to go back in and cancel it. You can change it in here and set it to whatever you want. So it's another way, of just a last-minute check to do that. Okay, don't worry about real-time and offline modes for the moment. That's more advanced, and most of you won't need to know about that for now. Okay, so there's your settings. Okay, you've put it in the right place. You've called it what you want, and you can just go to bounce, and that will bounce your file into the location that you've selected it in. And obviously, if you've got a CD in there already, you can also remember you can select any of these and all of these at the same time if you wanted to. But obviously, that creates a lot of files, and I don't recommend it. But you can also burn to CDA if you've got a CD capability attached to your devices. You don't have them on these, but for some you might have that. Okay, so there we go, MP3 and bounce, and that's really all you need to know. Okay, so I'll just leave it there. Thank you.